Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. China is making news, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it is fast mean of transportation, whether it's a consumer good. China is making the waves, including infrastructure. And whenever we see a news, a shattering news, earth shattering, the news comes from China. Whether it's imprisonment of 1 million Muslims, whether it's crushing down of the freedom seekers in Tiananmen Square or now in Hong Kong, or whether the fastest train and the largest solar power station floating one, China is making waves. And Chairman Xi, President Xi, has a plan to turn China into the top economy of the world. Not number two, not number three, not anywhere in the top five, but one and one only. And Chinese economy today is $14 trillion, which is not a small one. But the grand vision of turning China into most advanced economies by 2050, that's the next 3 decades, now seems to be more inspirational rather than actual. And the grand vision that President Xi proposed, dreamt of, is slowly withdrawing. Earlier we used to say man proposes, God disposes. But here, President Xi proposed and dreamt. And Trump came in like a bad fairy or a Satan lurking in the dark corner or the divine revenge, and slowly and steadily started chipping at the dream castle of President Xi. Now what has happened? Record debt levels. Don't be shocked. America is not the only country in the world having trillions of debts. China is no less. Rampant pollution, despite all the innovations, and an aging population. And the country is getting stuck into middle income trap. No thanks to Trump, but the sneaking attack by Trump on the flanks by starting the trade war has essentially chipped the block of ice that was China. The bamboo economy was sizzling, and the spark to that sizzling to turn into an inferno was supplied by Trump. Now, the Nobel laureate Michael Spence was talking to me the other day. We were having a phone conversation, and he was telling me that since 1960, 5 developing countries have made transition from advanced nation, from middle class, but maintaining high level of growth. Since 1960, only 5 countries. Then China come into that, and as the situation is, it's not maintaining high level growth. As a matter of fact, as I said earlier, it is trying to maintain it, but it's slugging back. It's like a tired engine which is failing. And China was trying to do this with an active support from US, but now there's active opposition from US. And that's a hurdle. And they may not be able to jump over that. US clearly has licked a fire under China. And if it ultimately succeeds, we may look back at today as a catalyst that really kicked their efforts into high gear. So America is doing two things. One is catalytic for slowing down the economy. Second, by the trade war, it is chipping at the economy. The largest buyer of the Chinese goods, mind you, is USA. And there are two reasons for that. One, USA citizens, the Americans, have a habit of conspicuous spending and wasting. They don't reuse, they don't recycle, they mostly throw it away. Ending is better than bending is their concept. So International Monetary Fund highlighted President Xi's challenge just on Friday. The meeting took place and they said that the annual report on Chinese economy is a comprehensive trade agreement that it hasn't reached with USA. And it could damage China's long-term outlook. To quote IMF report, China's access to the foreign markets and technologies may be significantly reduced. And who is responsible for that? No one else but Trump. And the odds of a near trade deal are a mid-near term trade deal, and this is a midterm, next year is election year. President Trump issued a surprise threat to apply new tariffs. And new tariff would cover $300 billion of the Chinese goods. That was done just about 2 weeks back. And China responded by halting purchase of US crops and allowed the Chinese currency yuan to fall down to the weakest level since 2008. It has been manipulating currency all the time, and that was one of the grouses that Trump had. But it's manipulated still further, and since 2008, now it's 2019, 11 years, it hasn't fallen to that level to which it has fallen today. Then the Trump's administration fired back within hours of their doing so. And this thing you would notice in Trump's attitude. He doesn't dawdle. He doesn't prosticrinate. He doesn't wait. He attacks. So within hours of this happening on August 5, China was declared officially, labeled, branded as a currency manipulator. And the White House is also holding off a decision about granting exemptions to the US companies that want to do business with Huawei technologies. Now, China has threatened India yesterday that in case India does not take Huawei technologies, they will have reverse sanctions. They will face reverse sanctions. China dares not do that to USA. And the return is that it's showing to the third world countries, the African countries, the eternal allies like Pakistan, that it is a paper tiger. It's a tiger without claws. It can bark, but it cannot bite. Now, what happened was that when it was labeled a currency manipulator, China was shocked to know that USA did not take an stand, and which was they were hoping that they will waive and permit US technology companies to do businesses they waive. They did not do it. So, on the other side, there is a suspicion in China that the Hong Kong riots are being sponsored by CIA. And October 1 is 70th anniversary celebration of China. If they show any weakness, their internal problems would increase. So just imagine how much water has flown in Amazon or in Ganges since the time. Some state media in China have raised the prospect of Beijing cutting off trade absolutely with US. Now, if they cut all the trade, they are cutting their nose to spite their face. The Communist Party publications have stopped nationalism now. They used to talk of Comintern, the international, and now they are talking of nationalism, which India is talking, which USA is talking, England is talking, and in fact, most of the countries are talking. So Chinese enterprises are speeding up their adjustment, creating new export markets. But can export markets be created overnight? In a short time, Chinese has ample firepower, I don't deny it, to prevent the economic growth from falling. But that's a short-term process. So what happens? At present, the growth rate has fallen below 6%. And that is quite injurious because India's growth rate has not fallen and the competition is with India. So the central bank is likely to cut off. China is likely to cut the interest rates this year. And the Standard Chartered PLC expects the financial status to be moderate recovery in the second half. So it's a moderate recovery. And how it would happen? There'll be financial stimulus. Then Chinese long-term challenge. Xi is doing something. A 2-year leverage campaign has helped wiping out the country's debt to some extent. But the difficult thing is highly polluting industries have taken a toll. And half of the country's gross domestic product, GDP, is going to fighting the pollution. Now, when a country is facing a situation that 50% of its GDP goes to wipe out the pollution and the GDP is falling, thanks to the trade attack by USA. So, the trade was as laid bare the Chinese weakness. And the most telling example, striking example is blacklisting of Huawei, which has threatened to cripple Chinese champion company because the chip design of Huawei cannot replace those of USA. If they had that fineness, if they had that sophistication, USA would have been defeated. So China's problem is accessing state-of-art technologies, and for that they are going to USA. Whether they buy it or they steal it. And what Trump has done is tightened the noose about supply of technology to China. They are taking great effort to develop their own technology, but technology development is not that easy. You don't need only money, you need a mindset to do that. And the mindset for developing technologies is much different than the mindset for jumping up and down. It's not trapeze, it's not a trampoline. The other challenges that China is facing because of Trump's action is, one is because of Trump action, that is increasing debt. The second is China's own problem in change in demographics. And now the Chinese debt is 303% of the GDP. 303%. Imagine it, how much the debt is. And the highest debt is payable to institutes of international finance like IMF. You know, people have been thinking that China is a robust economy, but in fact, any country having It's good. 303% debt is having a facade, an outlook of strong economy, but it's really not so. The country's working age is forecast to shrink by 20% by 2050. So 2050 is the day for realization of the dream that China should be number one. But by that 20% reduction of the working population, which means it will be reduced to 718 million only. Per capita GDP has jumped since 2000, but then compare it with USA. In USA, per capita income is 65,000. In China, this is expected to reach 10,000 this year. Is less than USA, far less. USA is 6.5 times more than China is. I don't deny the Chinese economy has been increasing. I've been all the time saying it. But the advantage is shrinking now. Trump has jumped in and put a spanner in the progress of China. Growth slowed down to 6.5% and the lowest in the last 27 years. And if on September 1, Trump's threat comes into action, then 0.3 percent points of expansion would be reduced further. Xi can diversify, he's trying it, but still USA imports 20% of China total production. So US trade action and political actions and siphoning off and strangulating the supply of technology has put a spanner in the progress of China and it's realizing its dream. China will lose a lot of market share and technology spillover from USA will be very slow. Naturally, the dream may not be realized. And the person to whom China can thank this is no other than Trump. Really, it's a nightmare for President Xi. And what Xi is proposing, Trump is intent upon disposing. Thank you.